that was a rubbish burp. I wish I'd never even bothered. It was a bit sicky, you know. That went.
Oh, is it? What have you been drinking?
Well, drinking tea. Tea. That's it. You know me. It's all I drink.
Pepsi Max for me this evening.
Are we shouting for sponsors?
Uh,
Are we shouting out sponsors? Pepsi Max or PG Tips, get in touch.
PG Tips.
Yeah, why not? Shoot for the stars.
Oh, I'm a bit of a Tetley man.
Oh, fuck off with your Tetley. That whatever happened, Tetley I'll stomach, but Thai food can go fuck off. And
Oh, they could fuck themselves.
Yorkshire tea's all right, but if you leave it in for just a fraction of a second too long, stewed to fuck, tannins all over the place. You might as well tan your liver in it.
Yeah, and then you got to scrub your cup with a fucking Brillo pad.
Enough about tea. We're not here doing a fucking tea podcast.
Fucking looks like it.
Let's. We won't even go into what we've just been up to at the weekend because this will come out in a week or two's time, so it'll be irrelevant no matter how.
Get the guest in. They don't care about us.
Where is he? And admit the amazing, the awesome, the old school OG from Australia, Ryan Slater. There we go. Hopefully he's should pop up any second and be in the room. There we go. Back in the room, brother.
How we doing?
All good. All good. Thank you so much for getting up early doors here to come and do this. We appreciate that. We're on the late, you're on the early.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us.
It seems there is a touch of delay, so I'll try to, keep it flowing in whatever way. But what do you expect? Even with the internet, it's still fucking thousands of miles away. For goodness' sake. Gotta say, before we go anywhere, you have by far got the plushest pad background there.
Thank you.
It looks proper lush there where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for taking time out. It's a real honor to have you on. As we briefly chatted before the introduction there, and I sort of had to make the admission that we've never met in person, although I've known of you for years, but you have met plenty of the UK scene in years gone by.
Where we just haven't really crossed paths, I guess. Yeah,
that's it. I was on a jaunt in France by the looks of our timelines there when you was over in the UK making the basketball jerseys, the big thing. I think I don't know who got it first. You're Martin James from the BFC, but there were a lot of basketball tops around for a while.
Yeah, we actually had them done up like back in the day. We built this demo ramp set up, probably like 2003, I reckon. And we got them done for all the Aussie riders to wear sort of during the demos. So, it was just a bit of representing the local scene, having that on over in the UK,
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. I got to say. It's a good look. It was a good, strong look for the time. Definitely, there were definitely a few people inspired. Sonny Dibben for another one. I remember seeing him. I mean, he's only little, bless him. The basketball top on him, it would like come down to his knees.
Yeah, classic.
Oh, I thought he was dressed as a cheerleader every time I seen him.
But yeah, so as we do with we could talk about basketball tops, but we're here to talk a little bit about your history within the sport. I'd like to say that at one point in time you were Australia's greatest export when it came to mountainboarding. I think we can safely say that maybe Dylan's sort of overtaking on that front of an exposure in recent years.
Super proud of Dill and the way he's kind of representing Melbourne and Australia as well. Like, there's no doubt he's like an absolutely phenomenal rider. You know, possibly the best in the world. You know what I mean? And he's got such a unique style. It's been really cool to see him come up. So I probably first met Dylan. He would have been about 11 years old, and I reckon I was about 17 or 18. And I remember him coming along to one of the sessions that we had, and his dad dropped him off and everything like that. And you know, his eyes were just like sponges, just absorbing everything in that was going on. You know, I think I gave him like a DVD, shitty ass DVD that I made like at the time, and I'm like, here you go, man, chuck this on and whatever. And yeah, I mean, he's come so far from that moment, you know. Like, actually,
you guys,
you know, like, it's crazy.
but you must have sparked a massive. It must have sparked his imagination massively at that age. You know, as so many people got sparked. You know, the current generation of riders now are all around sort of Dylan's age, and would have had similar experiences as we've hit up in previous episodes with, you know, people seeing demos or like getting given DVDs and stuff like that. That age group, you just rinse and repeat, don't you? Just like you say, sponging.
Get obsessed. And like, I mean, obviously the same thing happened to me, and it probably happened to you guys too. Like when you're a sort of a teen young kid, or I don't know when you guys sort of started riding. But for me, it was probably, I don't know, it was probably like 12 or 13 at the time when I started. And my first exposure to mountain boarding was around that time. They had a mountain boarding demo at the X Games in Melbourne, and Leon Robbins had flown over to do it, and I think Jason Lee, maybe, I don't know, there would have been some other riders there, but at that point I didn't actually ride. That was my first exposure to seeing mountain boarding. And then kind of from that point, I don't know, there was like this, it's really weird. There was like this kind of mountain board computer game on the MBS website for a little bit. And like us and all these kids in school used to play this like mountain boarding game. And then, you know, then all of a sudden I'd see it on TV again. And myself, I grew up in like a country town with like, you know, forest and bush and, you know, things like that, a little bit away from the beach, crap skate parks and stuff. So it was kind of a logical thing for me to get into mountain boarding, actually, as like a form of board sport to get into. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you just pressurize mother and father? So when I was over in Oz, I think it would have been like 2000, 2001. And I remember going to the Extreme Games. I don't even know if the X Games were a thing. It was back when the Extreme Sports Channel was on.
Yeah, that'd be it. Yeah, I think that's what it was called, actually. The Extreme Games. Yeah.
And they had loads of, like you say, demos there. But how do you go from seeing a demo and going, oh, do you know what? That makes sense for me in my local environment. You know, like, where do you go to get that kit? Did you go to MBS Direct, or like did a skate shop sell it?
That's a separate story in itself that I'll come back to in a second. But you know, I think as far as like that inspiration and why you would choose mountain boarding, and it's what mountain boarding's kind of always, you know, somewhat been about, is it's got that kind of the search kind of component to it, where, hey, what are we going to ride here? You know, what is out there? And like for me, and in the area that I grew up in, I'm like, man, I reckon we could ride down that hill on one of those. You know, yeah. So even as a younger kid, you're kind of already thinking, you know, on the hunt before you even got a board. You're like on the hunt for places that you could take if you had one. You know,
yeah, that terrain hunting. Like, there's a really cool, like, surfers and snowboarders have used it, the search sort of thing. But and it's so true.
Yeah. Well, whenever you're traveling now, you're always searching like left or right out your windows looking for a terrain, aren't you? And like anywhere new you travel.
Totally. And I think that's always been the most exciting part of mountain boarding for me is, you know, that search and the places that it leads you and the places that you've actually, well, the places that has taken me on the search has been absolutely crazy and definitely just completely changed my life getting involved in mountain boarding. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a game changer. I mean, we say, you know, it's got this sort of aura of danger around it, but there are so many more benefits to mountain boarding that outweigh that to try and it's only us guys that actually do it that realize those benefits, you know, even just physical ones like walking up hills gets your cardiovascular system going.
You know, social and sense of community too.
Yeah.
You know, and I, you know, as a kid growing up, it sort of provides you a bit of direction.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You're like, it keeps you sort of a bit out of trouble and
gives you focus.
Yeah,
it does.
And like you say, as well, it can lead to so much more. You know, for example, videography. You know, like there are so many people, kids that were kids when we
like. Where do you start?
Yeah,
you know, like
the traveling as well.
I don't even know where to start, but probably even my parents say to me, with what I do at the moment, they go, geez, it was lucky you were like mountain boarding as a kid. You know, they can see that what mountain boarding taught me growing up.
Yeah.
You know, even just things like, you know, taking risks or like assessing which risks you're going to take and which ones you're going to just not. Like it's hard to imagine if you don't mountain board or you're not exposed to this type of thing. You probably like, how do you learn that?
Yeah, I mean, you can get bits of it from the other board sports, can't you? All of them scratch an itch in some way, shape, or form in a similar fashion. But yeah, for people like us and so many of us in the scene, that it just offers that something a little bit more on. A little bit more. I say masses more. You know, this world's a huge place, and mountain boarding's taken you around it. You know, a number of times. Like I say, on that search to places that you would never have visited potentially had you not been involved in mountain boarding.
Like the places, the people that I've met, all that sort of thing is life changing. You know, and I think even like a lot of the trips that we used to do. In the earlier days, like we did a lot of road trips in Australia, like the early sort of crew, and we'd just like pack up and go for like 2 or 3 weeks and you know, catch up with other, because you got to remember Australia's like a massive country, so
fucking huge.
There would be different scenes going on in Australia that people would never meet because it's like a 30-hour drive away, you know, but we're still in the same country. So we would do like road trips up to Brisbane and Queensland or Sydney. And it was funny, you know, like there was all these other scenes going on around Australia. And we'd, you know, catch up and ride and explore where we were going to ride, make videos, you know, like.
To be fair, in the introduction, I was tempted to intro it as, fuck mate, this is Byron Bay and this is the big country.
Yeah, I mean that was a good one that we did with kind of Dill and Eddie. We went on a trip with that, but there was certainly a lot more before that too, with some of the other crew earlier on in the piece of mountain boarding in Australia, and like, you know, first seeing other mountain boarders, it was like, I don't know, Yeah, really cool.
Tell us a bit about that. You know, we said about another story about how you got your first board, and so like tell us that, and how your first sort of meeting. Did you meet another mountain boarder? Did you have other kids in your?
No, not at all. As I said, like I'd been exposed to it a few times, and really kind of wanted one. And one of the like Wheat-Bix cereal companies in Australia was giving away 200 mountain boards. Yeah,
That's it. Your Wheat-Bix.
yeah.
It took a couple of.
How did you find that? What?
On eBay.
Right, man. So I used to enter this competition online like over and over. I think we just had the internet at our house. Like that's kind of the time frame we're talking. And I just used to get home from school and just like enter and fucking eat so many Wheat-Bix so that I could get whatever I could. And I actually did win it was an MBS cricket that I got first up. Yeah, so that is actually how I got into it. And then one of my best mates from school got a board as well. So then there was like
he's eating Weetabix as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think he won one in a competition. But anyway, that kind of like, I don't know. I think eventually, you know, it was pretty sort of kid style board. So I don't think it really lasted that heaps long. But then I remember getting an MBS Razor, which I bought, and I was just like, oh my God, this is just the sickest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of how I got into mountain boarding. And obviously, you know, once I was into it, and as I said, it was like pretty early days of the internet, but I remember there was like, what was the first thing? I don't know, but we used to talk to some other mountain boarders, just to sort of name them, like Waffles and this other guy, Nick Gallett, and there were two other mountain boarders that were in Melbourne at the time. And I was like, wow, there's actually like, you know, other kids that are doing this. And it was a way to just sort of connect. And then they knew of someone else with one. And so I think, you know, maybe around sort of year 2001 or something, we all caught up and met for the first time and rode together. Before that, it was just, you know, like a kid with one, and then, you know, maybe a couple of mates together with one and whatever. And I guess that was the beginning of sort of the Australian mountain boarding scene. Yeah.
So did you have like one of the early mountain board forums for Oz as well then?
Yeah, I think that come a little bit later on because no one obviously had set one up, you know. So that come maybe like a year or two sort of after whatever on Messenger that we were sort of talking. I think maybe a year or two after that is when it was actually this guy, Alistair from Queensland, who set that up, I believe. And he used to kind of ride the outback style of mountain boards. But, you know, that's really brought the scene together as a country even more.
Yeah, because it connected all the dots of all the pockets around. It happened to us. All the pockets sort of connected through the early internet.
Absolutely.
And that's how you got your meetups and your rides going.
Yeah, the internet's been a huge tool in actually connecting people of such a niche sport together. You know, like I don't know. I'm not old enough to know how skateboarders teed up and organised their meets in like the 60s or 70s or whatever. But I don't know, how would you do it without the internet? I guess you got to go off magazines and people publishing events and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess we're really fortunate to have the internet and be able to meet up with crew a little bit easier. Yeah.
So you say you had what your other lad who managed to get himself aboard, and then you got yourself a Razor. Did you start to build any local crew to yourselves, or were you?
Yeah, that sort of develops, you know, over time. There was other kids in the town that got them, and after school we'd just go straight up into the pine plantation and build dirt jumps, and eventually, like, we actually held an event there, like just a bit of a jam session kind of thing, and there was some crew that come down from Queensland, and but I was only like 17 organizing these like sessions and events and stuff, and people were coming from around Australia. I don't know, it was probably pretty underwhelming for them, but I think also everyone was sort of stoked on just like meeting other riders and getting involved.
I think you talk it down, such is the nature of mountain boarders. We all seem to be quite solitary in distance apart. Even the UK is a million times smaller than Oz, but it's not at that stage, certainly not anymore, where there are massive regional clubs or regional teams, or however you want to do it or classify it, but it does seem to be hopefully building a little bit back up towards that at the moment. But yeah, I mean, my closest mate is him, and he's a good hour and a half away.
Wow.
I think, it's not too bad. We do get to ride, but it's not the same as having kids. If you were a kid and you got a couple of mates that are into it, like you say, it's every day after school, isn't it? You've got your local little spots that might seem underwhelming to, what we might want to go and ride as adults with all the experience that we've got. But to you guys at 12, 13, 14, 15, that's what you've got, and you make the best of it, and you don't know any different, do you?
Absolutely, yeah. I guess, just on sort of the scene at the moment and how it is in Melbourne. I mean, people like Dylan and Joel Lee are doing such an incredible job inspiring kids to ride around Melbourne. It's amazing to see. So they've got, some demo ramps and setting up demos pretty regularly. Really bringing in that next generation of kids into the sport. And I guess for me, if I'm going out for a ride, there's still a pretty solid crew in Melbourne that we can just sort of meet up. To be fair, I don't really get out too much, but when I do, there's people around that, still a pretty solid scene here.
Yeah. We like seeing some of the skate park sessions and stuff like that on the socials that come out, and everybody seems to meet up. Like you say, it does look a really strong scene. Are there, like, so if that's Melbourne, are there like pockets still, say Sydney and Brisbane or Perth? Like, are there other pockets?
There would be. I'm actually a little bit out the loop on those cities, what's happening there at the moment. But as I can sort of speak in what's happened in the past, there's always been pretty solid crews around those areas.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that, one way or other. The thing is that there's boards, people have boards in Australia, and they don't just disappear. They might sit in the shed for a little bit, but eventually someone's going to sell them and new kids going to get involved. So, if there are boards in Sydney like that, they'll still be there, and there'll be still kids with them, I imagine.
But, I mean, this mad bastard dragged a Comp 26 all the way around Australia. Did you meet any other mountain boarders when you were on your travels, Slogs?
No. To be fair, like, I was staying in, like, campsites and hostels and, like, working around. But I was riding what I was mainly doing was getting other people who were like doing the same journey as me to try mountain boarding out.
Yeah. Like some traveling minister.
Like loads of the Dutch travellers and the Brits and a lot of Scandinavians all had to go pissed up in the evenings on the campsite.
Oh, can't imagine having a Comp 26 travelling around. Oh my god!
It was all right once we got over there. I bought a van and slung it in the back of the van, but
It's true, man. Yeah.
It was breaking
Yeah.
it down and freaking slinging it in a rucksack, getting it across the water.
Oh man. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, Ryan. As we've mentioned earlier, you came over to the UK a couple of times in the late 2000s. Was that one of your first sort of international trips on the mountain boards? I mean, you've been around a bit all over, haven't you?
Yeah, my very first international trip was to New Zealand. Would have been in 2003. So I was still in year 12 at school. And it was part of the World Series, which was on sort of back then. And they just finished building this park called Gravity Hill. I don't know whether you guys
remember that
one. But like, I remember seeing photos of it in like ATB mag.
You had the dirt half pipe, apparently.
Yeah, and I was like, I got to get over there, you know. And so that was my first international event. So there was a handful of us that went over from Australia. There was myself, Mick Gallett, Tom Pianta, Alistair from up in Queensland, and another dude, Boyd McMillan, who really played like a massive role in the kind of Sydney scene at the time. And he actually later went on to build a public mountain board park in Sydney, which I can double back to. But yeah, Gravity Hill, there was Tom Kirkman had flown over. And to me, you know, just seeing Tom ride was, you know how it is, on a whole nother level. Like, that was absolutely mind-blowing for me to watch Tom over in New Zealand. Who else was there? There was some of the biohazard team from Czech Republic had flown over, and they were just like absolutely crazy, mental. The parties were wild. The riding was like top notch. The mountain board park itself was well, the first time I'd seen a proper mountain board park. You know, we hadn't ridden anything like that in Australia. There was nothing like it. And probably at that point, not many in the world, or probably a handful over in UK, I'd imagine, at that sort of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was super inspiring. You know, so that was the first international sort of experience with mountain boarding. You know, a few years later, I went back to New Zealand to a different place for one of the comps over there. And there was a few other sort of international riders there, like a Coney had flown over. Introduced to him, and then, you know, had become friends with a few of the New Zealand mountain boarders as well too. So that was my first sort of international experiences with mountain boarding. Yeah.
And were you involved with the Kapahala trip?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I guess that sort of come about probably on that trip I was just saying, where I met a Coney, and he was obviously like really behind the scenes, and working with the production side of things and getting riders together to be involved. I don't know how I used to communicate with him. It would have been by email or chat or something. I'm not sure, but somehow I found out that he was looking for riders, and you know, we had to put together kind of like a 2-minute sort of show reel of us riding, and you know, that was sort of further inspiration. I remember doing some like front flips and some other, like, it pushed me to sort of learn some new things, because I was like, oh my god, it's actually like a movie that I could be in. Sounds sick.
Yeah, this is legit times.
Yeah, myself and one of my other best mates here in Melbourne, his name's Jared Cronin, who was, you know, arguably the best rider kind of at the time in Australia. And so we were both sort of pushing each other and, you know, learning new tricks in the lead up to that. And then to sort of finally get the call that we were actually going to get flown over to New Zealand and feature in this Disney movie. It was absolutely surreal.
Oh, I bet.
It was the most surreal experience. So we lived over there for, oh man, it was a few months, living in like a 5-star hotel, getting paid to ride, which you would do anyway for free, obviously.
Yeah.
It's quite well too. Like it was absolutely surreal. Yeah, and also the other crew involved in the movie, especially the mountain boarders, you know, Oconee, Leon Robbins, Cody Stewart. Like it was just an absolute pleasure to ride with those guys, meet those guys, hanging out with them at the hotels and, you know, drink beers together and all that sort of stuff. You know, as I said earlier, like Leon Robbins was the first rider I ever saw. So, you know, all of a sudden to be hanging out and having beers with him.
How did that conversation go down, I wonder, back then? Did you ever tell him that you saw him the first time?
I probably would have smashed one night, you know, like you know. Yeah, something like that, I reckon, is how it probably would have been done. But, yeah, I forget. I'm just guessing. Yeah.
Right. Oh, nice. Well, that's, I mean, like I say, that's about as big an exposure for that time. Like you say, internet was in its infancy and only just starting to gather any momentum. You know, proper TV was still the biggest exposure that you could hope for, wouldn't it?
Communication, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it probably got some kids into the sport and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully it did. But also for us, it was a bunch of fun too. You know, like it was incredible to be a part of.
Yeah.
Can't describe it. A complete surreal experience. I still look back and go, wow, that sort of actually happened.
Yeah. It's funny, but both those places, like the Johnny Capahala track there and the gravity,
Yeah.
yeah. Both, even now, if you were to look at the pictures of those tracks or the parks, they'd still be relevant now. Do you know what I mean? You could, I'd still want to go and ride them.
Yeah, like Gravity Hill was super smooth. The border cross at Gravity Hill was so sick, especially the top half of the track. Really wide track. All the rollers were just, you know, flowing perfectly together. The lines around the berms were perfect. You know, and then there was some pretty solid jump lines, tabletop, dirt half pipe. Like that was insane. You know, the Johnny Capahala track, like that was seriously fast. That was a quick track. If you were going to ride that from top to bottom, that is absolutely fanging. But, you know, for the most part, when we were filming, we'd ride a section at a time. Yeah. Because that's how we film it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to set up 20 cameras all the way down the course when they can just make do with 2 and film it section by section and have more chance of success if it was that hard.
And it was somewhat choreographed, you know. Like I remember it was like, all right, I've got to go up the inside and pass Cody around this berm. And so, you know, we'd probably muck around with it for a little bit on for a few takes on the camera of like how far up the hill each of us have got to start, because we're only kind of doing a 20-meter run into the berm. You know? So it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to pass you, I'm going to have to be going quicker than you. So I've got to start further up the hill. But then, you know, I have to pass you at the right spot too. So it's like, you know, it took a little bit of working out a few of the things to get it how the directors wanted it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Nice. So
yeah,
we got, whilst we're on the topic of, you know, films and stuff, you've been involved in lots of different projects over time. We mentioned earlier about the big country sort of little series of road trips from there, but also bass in your face. I'm telling you, cracking, absolutely cracking.
I mean, you know, they're nothing too serious. They were just sort of us having a bit of film while we're out riding. From memory, well, that was probably maybe when Ollie Morrison and Twy were visiting Australia, I think.
Yeah, I think there was an ATC video there. I mean, it's all on Vimeo. Again, there's a treasure trove on Vimeo of amazing mountain board videos that aren't on YouTube that you got to know where to look on there as well.
Yeah, I've got to find someone who can convert, like, digitalize some of the old tapes that we used to record on. I've got like a whole box full of like really, really like early days footage of Australian mountain boarding.
That sounds like a box of gold.
Yeah. yeah.
That was what was inside Samuel Jackson's briefcase at the end of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I mean, I got to find somehow to like get it off, but yeah, if that happens, I'd love to put together some edits of, you know, the early road trips and stuff that we used to do, because yeah, I think for me they were like the best memories in the sport for me. Of, you know, they were absolutely the best kind of for me.
That'll be a good little nostalgia project if ever you can get it on the go.
Yeah, totally.
Sure. So yeah, tell us about the trip over to the UK then, or your couple of trips over to the UK. Who were you dossing with whilst you're over here, and what
year was it, the first one?
Yeah, if I was gonna sort of take a guess, I reckon the first one was probably 2008 or 2009. Yeah, so, you know, at that point, as I mentioned, like, I had a few meetings with international riders and that sort of thing, and, you know, I've always had seen what was happening in the UK, whether it be via ATB Mag, you know, the internet, whatever it might be, seeing, you know, things like the freestyle competitions and the world freestyles and all that sort of stuff. And it was totally inspiring to me to come across that stuff on the other side of the world and just go, oh my God, like, this is happening over there. So yeah, I guess I just started planning a trip over there the first year. My sponsors at the time, Munro Boards, were super helpful in kind of helping me with that. You know, bit of kit. They might have chipped in some money or something like that, I think. But yeah, that was just incredible to sort of go over there and see what I'd seen in ATB Mag and on the net and everything like that. And, you know, there's riders that you'd heard about, and then, you know, catch up with them, that sort of thing. Seeing some of the parks and the mountainboard parks that you guys had over there was next level.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, you're looking back at those, you know, the sort of footage that came out of that period there. Like, you're a really strong rider, So, like,
nothing compared
question,
to, like,
without that sort of terrain to practice on and that, how do you get that good without, do you know what I mean? Like, because if you have the top boys of the day, like you say, the ATC crew and stuff like that, they're in their backyard, their backyard jib parks and stuff like that, and then they're at centres all the weekend. Do you know what I mean? It is, but the fact that they live, you know, for example, Tom lived reasonably close to like SWNBC with some of the biggest, most progressive jumps in the time.
Yeah, totally. But I guess that's like to answer your question on that is kind of what drove the search of everything at home even further. You know, it was like you could find some big doubles or something that mountain bikers would hit, or you know, various jumps or various even other styles of riding too. You know, so in somewhat that shaped the style that I was riding at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I can sort of see how that same circumstance has sort of shaped the style that Dylan rides too. Like if you have a think about how Dill rides, it is very much like all about looking for that unique terrain and you know, maybe potentially a mountain bike park that you can ride on a mountain board or something entirely different. And like you have a think about his videos and what he puts together, whether it be like some sort of wall in Japan or like, you know what I mean? It's very rarely like a groomed park.
Yeah.
I think sort of as probably all mountain boarders in Melbourne, that's sort of how we grew up riding and looking for things to ride. You know, I think that was sort of the unique, you know, everyone does it, but like we were like,
but I think Australian,
you know, there were no parks. So
and it's built a very Aussie style. You know, I don't want to, you know, sort of pigeonhole it as such in that particular way, but like as you say, that you'll utilize street environments a lot, you know, and all terrains. I mean,
I mean, it could just be, you know, like a dirt bank on the side of the road, and we'd spend an arvo just slashing the bank or whatever, you know. Like, it wasn't always about bordercross or freestyle or anything. It was about riding boards, looking at the terrain and sort of what you can do with it.
Yeah.
Really. And it also forced us, you know, as far as freestyle goes, forced us to dig more, create more stuff, you know, how you want it to be. So that was my experience with jumps and that sort of thing, I guess. Yeah.
And who was your crew when you did come over and start hitting these parks over here? Were you staying with anyone in particular?
I was a full gypsy, you know, like I was traveling on my own, but I mean, so many people along the way that helped me out, and you know, it's a real testament to the mountain board community that I was able to go over there, and you know, people don't even think twice because you're a fellow mountain boarder, and they're going to help you out and give you a ride somewhere where you can crash at their house or whatever it might be. And so for me to kind of list off the people in that first trip that I went over there, oh man, I'm going to like forget people. So I'll probably just say,
don't worry about
thank you who's helped me out. But one person in particular that helped me out, especially sort of towards the end of that trip, was Teddy from Tramper. And I guess that sort of led into the second trip for me over to the UK. You know, got onto a tramper board myself, and we did a few sort of road trips around Europe. I was living up in Nottingham with Teddy there, and you know, all the tramper crew were absolute great value, you know. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, yeah, like I say, that time in the UK seems to have had a little bit of documentation throughout some of the films over the years.
I would have. While I'm on it, like I want to give like a big thanks to Ted and all the people that helped me out in England during that time, and it's like seriously fully appreciated.
Man, you know? Ted, well, there you go, still rocking the tramp. He's a super generous
Oh, absolutely. You know, could only ever speak highly of, you know, most of the crew over in England.
Yeah. But you know, you say about sleeping on so many people's houses and gypsying, mate. I reckon if you were to pack a bag tonight and get on a plane tonight, you could have that same experience still now. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? That love, that sense of community hasn't changed at all. Anywhere in the world, it wouldn't matter whether you go Central America, bloody Japan, Europe, wherever. There will be someone there with ready waiting with a sofa or a bed and a spare board or, you know, whatever.
And some secret terrain.
So it's not just England in my experience too. Like I remember staying with Antonio in Portugal, and like different crew over in Ireland and various other places and people that I've ridden with, and everyone's just been so super hospitable. And you know, I guess there's been like people come over here too, like Scully and Joe Dixon were kind of crash at my house for a few weeks, and you know, I'd like to think it's back and forth a little bit. Yeah,
I bet that was carnage, having them boys over for a while.
Oh man, yeah. Good times. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. I was just about to say, I hope it didn't. Did Scully turn up in the end or at the weekend? Just gone slugs?
No, Ted did though.
Ted did. I missed Ted.
Yeah, Ted turned up Saturday evening.
Nice. So we just had the closing weekend. I mean, this will go out in a while's time.
Yeah.
But we just had the season closer for Bugs Boarding. It was their 20th anniversary.
How good's that?
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's the only place left now in the UK that's you know, like a mountain board.
Solely mountain, yeah.
Sad times.
Oh my god, that really is, man.
When you consider how many there would have been back in the times when you were travelled over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, it's nice to see that the Mornington Peninsula has a little park there for mountain boards over.
I mean, a few sort of in the works, and a few that, you know, we don't have access to ride the Mornington one all the time, and still on like a private property as part of a camp.
Right.
But, you know, I have. You know, there's a few others sort of, you know, while we're on that. I remember talking earlier, this guy Boyd from Sydney.
Yeah.
He was like what was he in? He was in some sort of council department, like government department. And he also was like an old school skater and had ridden mountain boarders, probably one of the first mountain boarders in Australia, like certainly up there. And as part of his job, he was able to kind of get through to build a fully blown public mountain board park in one of the northern suburbs of Sydney. And I think having catching wind of it was called San Remo. So I think having catching wind of that was the reason for our like first road trips that we did, you know, to go up there and session that. It was incredible. At that time, I hadn't ever seen anything, you know. I think that was even before Gravity Hill. For me, that was the mountain board park that I'd ever seen. Unfortunately, it was in a pretty rough neighborhood, and like, you know, all the local kids didn't ride bikes or anything. They just used to go there, smoke bombs and light bins on fire, you know. So it didn't last. It had to get shut down. Like, it was such a bummer.
Yeah.
I believe it's still there. And the last road trip that Dylan and I went on, we went back there and it was there. This is like 5 years ago we went there. And it was all locked up and fenced up and stuff like that. And we were like, we've got to be able to get in there still. So we're kind of like walking around and like got in under this fence and snuck in there to ride it. And like we had a really good session there. You know? It's actually still there, but it's like locked up. Like, how's that? There's a full-blown mountain board park just sitting there in Australia, fully locked up that no one's allowed to use.
Oh man.
It's been
how much is a flight?
I'll take it. We'll go on a little trip, you know.
That's it. A little trip off I rock back 6 months later.
Just a little back after the weekend.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just gonna have some milk, love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
So, I mean, bring us up to speed. Look at the time now. Like, bring us up to speed. Where are you at in your mountain boarding life?
Yeah, I mean,
now, like,
I guess like so. I run my own business, and I'm like super busy. I got a lot of responsibility and that sort of thing.
what do
But
you
I
do?
still
What is the
got
business?
like it's we've got like food trucks and mobile catering and like a wedding catering branch of the business. So it's all like hospitality and that sort of thing. But I guess sort of mountain boarding has taken on like a different role in my life. So I mean, you know, I'm beyond wanting to be like the best I can be or whatever. It's like for me, it's firstly it's a great form of exercise. You know, and we were kind of talking about the benefits and that sort of thing. Community, you know, still having friends and all that sort of thing that ride, you know, it's amazing. So yeah, I guess it's just sort of taken on a bit of a different sort of role in my life that, you know, when I got a sec, I can just go down. There's like a really cool sort of mountain bike park near my house. So I can just go down there, have a bit of a roll, slash some berms and, you know, just kind of do what I'm feeling, you know, like it's still an expression and still like an outlet for stuff. So, you know, that's what it is to me kind of at the moment. And we'll probably always still have a mountain board there.
Oh, that's hell of a good to hear, because you know, like me and Slogs have been through it, and you know, like people seem to reach a certain point in their life, late 20s, early 30s, where they start to think about other things other than mountain boarding, basically. But to keep in touch with it, and just to keep your hand in every now and again means that, you know, it'll come back around and stuff, especially when, you know, like you say, if the scene's kicking off and popping, or somebody sends you a text and says, oh, we're heading down the park tonight or whatever, you know, you'll be in there. Everyone would be, no matter how far or how long it had been since their last ride, you know.
Totally. And I guess like the other sort of thing that, you know, I'd never thought of when I was younger is like, you know, things like mountain boarding can play a different sort of role in people's lives as far as like a different demographic. You know, there's nothing to sort of, you know, stop all the old dudes or whatever you do. If you want to ride a mountain board safe, you can. If you don't want to risk things, you can. You know, like it's not that dangerous if you don't want it to be.
Yeah.
You know? Like you can, once you've got that sort of basic control, you can do whatever.
That's it.
Yeah.
Add to that, you know, a helmet and a couple of pads here and there. You know, you look after yourself. It's one of those things that I personally, I still want to be riding when I'm 60, 70 years old. And if that means I've got to look after myself and wind my neck in a little bit, well, so be it. At least I can still go out and put some turns in and, you know, get a bit of a drift on in a corner and stuff like that. You'd be fucking buzzing.
100%, dude. And once again, it is comes back to me about that excitement of finding places to ride. That creativity associated with, what mountain boarding is to me anyway. So, there's still plenty of scope in there without, trying a 720 at the edge,
Exactly. How did that turn out for you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I was 720 there. I was probably more referring to like Tom Kirkman's run.
I was going to say, I think I don't know, was it the edge that AJ was trying tens at? But
that was it. Yeah.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, what I'm talking about.
But yeah, exactly that, man. If I go out and I pull a couple of tweak grabs these days with a decent bit of amplitude, I'm well happy. That's it. And if I can get down a track in a fair old lick and be smooth about it, I'm happy these days.
Clean. That's I'm happy with just clean nowadays.
Yeah. Go home safe and smiling.
As I said, it's just taking on a bit of a different sort of role in my life rather than, I think I always have sort of pushed things and pushed myself to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've definitely sort of, taken the foot off the accelerator a bit and just sort of a little bit more creative too. And I'd like to think so. But, each to their own. Like, I don't give a shit really what people would think about that. But, I can still see people that I grew up riding with, people like Cody, for example, are still like really going hard. Pretty sure Cody would be just a few years younger than me, like not much younger.
I was about to say the kid's still fucking riding hard, but he's not a kid, is it? But
it's like some people who are like roughly my age are still going really hard. I don't know, not me anymore.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, we're still glad that you're in the scene, and still buzzing for it, man, because it puts a smile on my face. I've been really fucking excited to have this. I mean, let's be honest, we might as well tell a few. This episode now has probably been discussed and in the makings probably over a year now, I reckon.
Yeah, but there's time zones, all that.
That's it.
A 12-month time zone.
But man, I've been absolutely fucking buzzing for this because, like I say, for me, I'm under the impression that I'm a few years older than you, and as an older rider to a younger rider, you were inspirational back then. From I was living in France when you was doing the UK trips, and then seeing the footage come out, like, oh man, this dude Ryan from Australia is fucking sending this shit everywhere, and it was absolutely
appreciate that, dude.
But yeah, I mean, even up to your bloody little section in, where is it? Hashtag. It's there somewhere. There it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What else you got on that shelf there? You've pulled out the Weet-Bix card. You've got like what other good stuff you got on that shelf?
His memorabilia, man.
In the corner there.
You see it? Do you remember these Manic hubs? Did you see these back in the day?
Yeah, they weren't really available in Australia, but I remember sort of seeing them around. Yeah. Man, you got heaps of good stuff there.
There's an Aussie Mountainboard flyer there for off Dylan.
Yeah.
What else we got? Oh, this is one of my most treasured possessions. A bit of cardboard there from Jason Lee.
Oh, amazing.
A random bit of cardboard, eh?
Don't throw it out.
all the little details, even in little things like hero business cards. Because he's still not made no stickers, Phil. Come on, mate. get with the merch. But yeah, mountain board Lego sets and connect
man,
all this shit. That was like two quid on your eBay. You know, like the same for those Weet-Bix cards.
when's someone gonna open like a mountain board museum?
Well,
You know, like I got this whole room full of stuff too, and I reckon a lot of people would. It's like, someone needs to open like a mountain board museum. I reckon.
Because I don't know that it's going to get much passing trade as a thing, is it?
Bookings only. Bookings only. Private.
You know what it's going to end up like? There's a guy from Wales, in the UK called something like Captain Baked Bean, and his whole house is just dedicated to baked beans. He's got baked bean telephones, tins of baked beans. He's got a costume that he wears with baked beans on it. I think he's even tattooed his head like a baked bean, and that would just be me in the.
Could be you. You know, it could be Mr. Mountain Board. You know,
that's it. But Don Baker had the idea many years ago of putting something together and would like to do that.
This collection of mountain boards was amazing.
Yeah. What if we rounded up something to have at like the World Championships as like a one-off showcase? Curate some like pieces together in a marquee and just be like, yo, here's the memorabilia or something. Like that'd be really sick. Huh?
We did do a version of that last UK champs. And we put the call out to the community to bring in, you know, any sort of rarities and obscurities that people might have, and there was some real cool stuff come up. Like Stu Kirk brought some of the old prototype 3-wheelers, and there was some amazing bits of kit and loads of old decks and stuff. So I have been compiling stuff, you know, like when you see on, I don't know, do you have Facebook Messenger and not Messenger, Facebook Marketplace and stuff? Yeah. There's always old bits of shit flying around on there, and my thinking is that if it's under the price of a couple of beers and I don't drink, that's no different to me just going down the pub and having a couple of beers, is it? And that could end up in landfill, you know? That's it. So now I'm just turning my garage into a big landfill site.
Well, actually, when was it? No, it was ages ago now. I managed to pick up an MBS supercharger on eBay, which is the ones with the mountain board shocks built into the frame as standard.
No way. So
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've got a couple of the old frames over here, but I haven't got the one with the shock. And the only reason I'm so amazed is
you start offering money for it, Dan.
I'll have to ask. I should. You know what? I don't reckon I've actually ever shown it to Joel. Joel would probably know how many they made.
Yeah, you know? There's not many. I guarantee you that much. So when Matt Bryn went over to the US champs earlier on the summer, he sent me back some pictures. Now, who did he say brought it? I don't think it was Jason that brought it. But there was one there. I mean, somebody like Dave Starfighter, he's got an insane collection of old boards, decks, and prototypes and all sorts. But yeah, a world champs like museum would be incredible. You know, if everybody sort of bring a board, encourage everyone to bring an extra board, a rarity or something like that, you'd have one hell of a collection, and t-shirts and things like that, you know, all that sort of thing.
Can you imagine the t-shirts? You know, feel like everyone bringing their mountain board t-shirts, I reckon.
There's just rows and rows of them.
Yeah, t-shirt stands everywhere.
But yeah, That would be incredible. Oh man, you definitely get that that charger out, the supercharger, and send me a picture
Oh,
as well. Show,
I actually,
oh, it'll be made up.
that was really, really unique. I was surprised it just popped up. I was like, bang, that got to get that. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a rare.
Does it? Does it? Does it?
Ridden it?
Yeah. How does it
Hey,
ride?
it's got a really weird, like, kind of floaty feel to it.
Right. Can you feel the deck rise
Yeah,
and fall?
you can during the turns. I guess it's somewhat comparable to having like a really flexy deck on a unibody board.
Yeah.
But because of the length of it too, because it's like 152 and then having that flex, it's sort of I don't know, like you wouldn't want to have too much control going around a corner, I reckon. Kind of feels like it sort of lags a little bit. And it's almost a bit like driving a boat. I don't know if you've ever driven. Sways are a little bit.
I mean, mountain boards generally aren't the most responsive thing in the world, but to hear a mountain boarder say that one of these mountain boards steers like a boat, means it must be like.
I guess I'm just referring to like it's got a bit of a floaty sort of feel to it, you know, like
you get seasick.
He starts calling it port and starboard as opposed to toes and heels.
What boards are you guys riding at the moment?
I'm on a DW3 now for my go-to.
I've got an old Comp 16, the original green ones, the wide ones.
Oh, nice. What trucks? The original alloy trucks?
No, the Matrix 2s.
Nice. Yeah. Sick.
So I had to drill the O's myself in it, which was.
That's a cool setup. That's a really cool setup. Yeah.
There's a lot of good retro refitted boards going around in the UK at the moment. Jeff Bond, as you may or may not know, is reasonably new to mountain boarding, but managed to pick up on Marketplace a first gen razor with the mad crazy concave on it, and has just put that up. I think he's put Matrix Freeze on it, and like the latest hardwares.
I feel like that's the model that I would picture being the most sought after. I reckon would be a razor, if I was going to guess. What do you reckon?
Yeah, razor for me. They look so nice and they're so well built.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, for usability, you've got to go that Gen 2 that isn't going to snap on you. But they're. Well, I've got one down there, and we've got
obviously.
One of both. Obviously, says. But I don't store them with wheels on, but I can put wheels on at any time to 80-90% of the boards that I've got here. So they can all be ridden at a moment's notice, essentially. But you definitely notice a difference. I mean, like that new DW3 is just
incredible. I had a ride of the new one like last time I was out at Dill, so I don't know, a month or so ago. And it's so fast. Like it rides quick. That was the thing that I was like really amazed by. Like a super fast, responsive board. And yeah, like really versatile too, I think, in what you can do with that. Like having the loose trucks, but still pretty good stability and things like that.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. That for me, I mean, the deck alone is an amazing piece of kit. But though the Matrix Freeze there and this urethane bushings over springs, like I ride. Apparently, I've come to the conclusion this weekend after sampling a few other boards of people. I'd ride on James Wanklin's Hero AJ deck, but his trucks are so stiff. I nearly stacked it just trying to put a toe side turn in, where by comparison mine are just like, but there's no, you don't get that wobble in it.
I don't
You
know.
can have loose, really turny trucks and still not getting a wobble, and yeah, fucking great, absolute great.
Like, I was always used to just trying to get my trucks as stiff as I fucking possibly could. Like we used to get different springs out of engines and all sorts of stuff to put them in there so they were like so stiff, because it meant that we could go quicker and like bigger jumps and whatever else that we could do. And when it came to turning, where you just sort of kick the back out, like whatever, you can still move it with stiff trucks. But after sort of seeing this newer style of truck, I totally get it. Like, for me, it would take a lot to get used to sort of riding like that. I've probably still got trucks like you're talking about, like almost welded bloody together.
Like flat valve springs in there.
100%.
Oh man, they're incredible. They're real carve machines now. Like you put them white blocks in, a Dylan's there.
Speed of it is what blew me away.
Yeah.
Like especially like having it at the skate park or whatever. It's fast. It actually rides really fast because it's like rigid, and I don't know. There's just something about it that's just fast and responsive.
I was riding a collab before that.
Oh yeah.
I find it a really wide stance on there, and I find it hard to put power into pumping with what I feel is an overly wide stance for me, and the DW brings that stance in. But so I went last year before they came out on the prototypes with Eamon and Emlyn, and over a given pump track, I was of maybe 100 meters at best. Cut two or three corners and some features in between each of the corners. And it's about 30 seconds to get through the whole thing. But I was consistently 2 seconds quicker on the Dylan than on my own board. So I'm not riding a board that's set up for me. I'm riding, one of their boards. Eamon's goofy, so his, bushings are probably set a little bit on the hillside, which would be so it wouldn't be running true from all of those little things. Yeah, it's still quicker.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Yeah.
So what board are you currently riding yourself, Ryan?
I've got I don't know. I still kind of go to something with a little bit extra length. So I've got the Kirkman Pro that I'm running with. Yeah. Well, pros. I don't know. I'm just so used to it. It's like,
I'll give it 6 months before you're on a DW3 now.
After riding it, I was actually pretty much sold. I'm just not used to it is the only thing. So, but I was like, this is actually incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. They knocked it out of the park with that board, MBS did. Really did. But, well, look, I don't know what time it is now. We've been cracking on there. I am going to look to, if it's okay with you, Ryan, wrap this up a little bit here. But before we do, is there anything that you particularly wanted to get out to the world on this occasion?
Well, I guess I'd like to just thank everybody who I've sort of met and has helped me along my journey in mountain boarding. There's too many people to really name, to be honest, but big shout out to everybody who's sort of crossed paths with me. Shout out to all of the Melbourne crew, even past and present. I just sort of can't thank the people and the community and what mountain boarding has actually contributed to my life. So just a big thanks to everyone.
Nice, man. We have already.
That's a pretty good shout out.
and that. We have already said before about rejoining us in the future. Now we know how easy it can be. As such, hopefully we can tie us down again. But like, spoiler alert, I'm hoping to with Dylan and yourself, hopefully, and a few other of the Aussie Melbourne crew, sort of do a big joint episode. We'd love to get you in on that as well.
Yeah, that could be quite chaotic. That could.
That's going to be a coordinating nightmare, that one.
Surely you're all in the same time zone there, aren't you? Gotta be.
We're all in the same time zone, yeah. But yeah, we'll sort something out. I mean, it's really early here, so if you can get Dylan out of bed at like 5:36, well, yeah.
I was going to say we'll have to pull the early one next.
I'll go around there and get him up one way or another.
Just start rocking the van, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh man, it's been an absolute blast and a real pleasure to finally meet you, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Really appreciate Thanks for your time, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Yeah, enjoy your day, my man.
See ya.
Have a good day, man. Laters.
Way aye, man. That was dead canny as out, that like. Cheers for tuning out to listen. Now, before you gan yem, don't forget, if you want to keep getting doing with the Dirty Dirt fun, like and subscribe. Get amongst it. Shy Ben's getting out.